about arrogance and its harms. We had talked about the external manifestation of arrogance. We had spent time on humility. What are some of the things that you guys remember? What makes it so hard to be humble? Why can't we all just be humble? What does it require that makes it so challenging?
Internal introspective personalities, accountability.
Okay, so this idea of self-accountability, looking internally, right? So doing a lot of muhasabah, checking ourselves. What else makes it challenging? What else makes it difficult? Okay, sure. So like elements of forgiveness, not just forgiveness with others, but also forgiveness with ourselves. That can be very challenging and difficult. Okay, can you expand on that?
Comparing yourself to others.
Okay, so when we compare ourselves to others, what happens?
You feel either inferior or superior.
Okay. Feelings of superiority, we call that arrogance, right? When we feel better than others, like inferiority. Why would that be a problem? So if I feel less than others, why would that be an issue? I'm sorry? You're still trying to bring others down? If I feel less than others, I want to pull other people down with me?
No, you might look down upon others.
Okay, so I'm bringing. All right, so I think this is more jealousy, what you're talking about, right? So if I feel inferior, and the only way for me to climb is to do what? Pulling people down. That's usually motivated by jealousy, right? Because if I feel people are better than me, what is a healthy way of channeling that? Right? I can using them as motivation. Absolutely, 100%. Understanding that that's not me, but there are certain qualities of his that I want to, or qualities of her that I want to internalize. But essentially, the quickest way for our nafs to feel better is usually to what? To pull somebody down. What is the actual way to improve? To work hard, right? To make that effort. And that's difficult, right? Because pulling someone down, how much time does that take? It's pretty quick, right? Like the moment I say something about someone, right, it's an easy way to pull them down. In me building myself up, what happens? How long does that usually take? Right, it takes some time. Like, sometimes it can take a few days, sometimes it can take a few weeks, sometimes a few months, etc. But it takes time. And for us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ عَجُولًا, right? We're always very rushed. And we want instant gratification. We want things now. I want to see change today. I want to see change, not just today, I want to see change yesterday, right? Like we're always in a rush. We always want things to move quickly. So feeling less can definitely be negative. It can also be positive, right? Depending on the context. We had talked about forgiveness. Why is it so difficult to forgive? Because it's a part of humility, right? It doesn't mean that a humble person forgives in every instance? No, that's not necessary either.
It's a sense of control.
Right, there's a sense of control that's there. What else?
Your rights too.
Right, it's an issue of rights. And in the state of forgiveness, what do I have to do? I have to give up a right. And that's what's hard, right? Like giving up that right, that's what makes it challenging, that's what makes it difficult, and that's why it's hard to forgive. And that's why it's one of the reasons it's difficult to be humble. So Imam Ghazali, he talks about arrogance, and he says that there's internal and external. Now, what is the difference between these two? He breaks them down even further, saying that external these are just the actions that a person does to act arrogant. And he mentions a few examples that are mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah. What are those?
Walking.
Right, the way you walk, the way you carry yourself. Right, so, right, we talked about walking very proudly. The way you express yourself, the way you speak, absolutely. Right, wearing dragging garments, right? These are all signs of arrogance. And he talks about internally, he says that there's this arrogance it's in the heart. And that's actually where arrogance is. Is it possible that a person has these external or superficial characteristics and he's not arrogant? Yeah, potentially, right? The chances might be lower, but there's still a chance. Arrogance, essentially, where does it reside? It resides in the heart. And part of it is how I view others, part of it is how I view myself, and then this manifests in how I deal with them and how I speak to them and how I carry myself.
I have a question going back to something you said a couple, I think, a couple classes ago about the specific to heart, right? And I think the example you were using was like somebody gets a job, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't be happy that they get the job. You're like, why did I not get the job, right?
Yeah.
How do you balance the like competitive nature
Mm-hmm.
versus arrogant nature?
Sure. So what's the difference between competition and jealousy? Sure. Why? I agree, 100%. But why? Why is because superficially, when it comes to jealousy or competition, the goal is the same, right? Whether to win or otherwise, whatever it is, right? So this is the goal, and competition and jealousy, they both want to achieve that goal. But what is the difference, I would say, in mindset when it comes to them? So in competition, I'm actually working on what? Building myself up so that I can attain whatever this goal is. In jealousy, I'm trying to sabotage the other person, right? In competition, there's no sabotage. There's only personal development. Regardless of what other people are doing. And not just that, if I see other people working hard, what do?
You want to work hard too.
Right? I want to work hard too. And not just I want to work hard, I want to work harder, right? I want to work harder because I want to be better and I want to improve and I want to win. All of those things are healthy. Why? Because all of this hard work that I'm doing, am I doing it at the expense of others? Am I doing it to hurt others? Am I doing it to hold down others? No. There's another category of things, right, which might not be jealousy, where I'm motivated and I'm pushing myself and I'm doing these things, but I'm doing it out of spite. Does that happen?
Yes.
Right? So I'm going to work hard, I'm going to do this, and blah, 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 I'm going to do that. Why? Because my goal is not that I want to remove it from this person, that I want to what? Right? That I want to hurt that person. Right? That's what spite is. But that's very different from jealousy. So a person can have different motivations, but at the end of the day, competition is very healthy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَلْيَتَنَافَسِ الْمُتَنَافِسُونَ. Like, and they would race to paradise, right? Everybody wants to race to paradise. Everybody wants to get there, but we don't do it at the expense of others, right? Like, we don't try to hurt others. I don't try to step on someone, to get into paradise.
What if you're competing with somebody who is jealous, right? Like, what is
Sure.
the point?
No, that's a valid question. So what do I do if I know another person is jealous of me?
Protect yourself.
I'm sorry? So what, I read my adhkar, right? I read Ma'awadatain, Surah Al-Falaq and Surah Al-Nas. I do Ayatul Kursi. I make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect me. So all of these things, they're very spiritual and they're very personal. Like, what about with the person himself or herself? Okay, avoidance is one strategy. What is another one?
Couldn't you just let them have it?
I'm sorry?
What if you just let them have it?
It depends. Now, so for example, I'm jealous that you're sitting in that chair and I want to sit in that chair. I do have a choice of what? Like, you can be like, okay, like, right? You have to, now, who makes that decision? You have to make that decision. And you can make that judgment call on, like, all right, hey, is this worth it in this instance? When does that become a problem? Right? When it starts repeating, right? It keeps having, it's like, okay, hey, listen, this time I have no problem letting this go. This problem I have this time I have no issue, giving it to this person or giving it up to this person. Like, why do I not want to make it a habit?
Because that person is going to treat that as the status quo, so they're always going to take advantage.
Okay, yeah, so what essentially happens is that I start enabling that person, right? So every time I walk in, I know that Usman is going to get up from his chair and he's going to give me that space. And now what I do is I start taking advantage of him. And not just that, by him not drawing boundaries, what has happened? He hasn't helped me, right? He's actually made things worse for me because now my expectations are is that this is something that he has to do or something that he must do. What is another way of dealing with a jealous person? Okay, right? I can help them. But usually, so let's say if we're both trying for the same job, right? We're both applying for the same job, and I'm like, hey, listen, you need help with your resume, let me take a look, let me help you out. What happens then? Hey, listen, I think these are some skills that you should include. I know that you can do this. Hey, before you apply for the job, enroll for this program so that you can show that you're doing that. What happens in that situation?
Modeling the right behavior.
Okay, so modeling the right behavior is something that's really important. And then if that person is able to achieve it before me, what happens then? If this person is inherently jealous? Yes. So no, this is the point I wanted to get to, and we'll get back to that, inshallah. I've helped this person now. They've achieved it. I didn't get the job. That person got the job. What happens in the jealous person's mind? They don't care about, do they care about the contribution that you made and the effort you made? No. So, what do I do to protect myself in that situation? And it goes back to what Ahmed was saying.
You pull back away from it, or no?
That I have to make sure that if I am helping this person, that is for what? It's for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because I know that there is a chance that what? Can we put a couple chairs over there? That there's a chance that what?
They will not give you anything back for
Yeah.
appreciation.
That they might not express appreciation. But if I know that I did it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, does the outcome matter at that point? No, it doesn't matter. The other problem with this is that if I get the job and that person is inherently jealous, what happens? They might think that not showing off, that I tried to sabotage them. But again, so it becomes very tricky, and I'm not discouraging any of you, please don't. that wasn't my goal, and I'm not trying to say that. But it's always important to keep in mind that regardless and independent of what others feel about us, we should always be working for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we also have to know that because we interact and we deal with others, we never know how people are going to respond. It's just an unfortunate reality. We don't know if people are going to accept what we have to offer. We don't know if people are going to reject what we have to offer. We have to fight to make sure we are sincere, irrespective of whether that person is inherently jealous, whether if they're not jealous, whether if they're sincere. Why is that? Can I ever know this person's intention? No. Right, I can't. There's no way for me to know what's in that person's heart. But I can work on what's in mine. And I can always work on striving and being sincere. So we shouldn't, and this goes along with a lot of what you guys were talking about. When it comes to things of like unseen powers, or when it comes to things that are out of my control, or when it comes to powers that are beyond me to fight against or fight back. And a lot of times we'll get frustrated. We're like, oh, the government's against me, or this person has done magic on me, or this person is like, making dua against me, or like, they're using jinn, etc., right? So we have a lot of these unseen forces that exist around us. This person is jealous, this person's out to hurt me, this person's out to get me. We have a lot of these unseen forces, or forces that are beyond our control. What do I do in that situation? That's all I can do. I seek spiritual refuge. There's nothing more I can do. And in the meantime, I make dua, right? I'm doing my adhkar. I'm making my salawat on time. I'm engaging with the Quran. And what do I do in the meantime? How much mental energy should I put to all those forces? Zero. I should give it no mind. Why? Because I know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking care of it. That's it. So I should put zero mental energy into those things because I trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking care of it. And what I should be doing in the meantime, I should be working toward my goal. I should be working toward my efforts. I cannot busy myself with these unseen powers because it's out of my control anyway. It's not something I can do about. Like if the shaitan is trying to distract me, can I pull a gun on the shaitan? Right. I could try, right? I'll fail miserably, right? And the thing is, like, if someone's approaching me, right, or if someone's intimidating me, or someone's trying to hurt me, I have a very real ability, physical ability to push them back, right? But if it's something that's unseen, or someone's like, oh man, these people are scheming against you behind closed doors, but can I do anything about that?
No.
Can I go and confirm it?
No.
Can I go crash the meeting? It'd be like, ha, I caught you guys. They'll deny it. They'll be like, what are you talking about? We were talking about what we wanted to order for lunch, right? Like, at the end of the day, because I don't have control of any of those things, I have to trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says very clearly, وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرَ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. That they scheme, and Allah schemes, and Allah is the best of schemers and planners. Like, we have to trust Allah. Like, we don't know what's happening behind closed doors. We don't know who's working against us. We don't know who has planned what. We don't know about the jinn. We don't know about the shayateen. We don't know about magic. We don't know about any of these things. But the beauty is I don't have to worry about it. Right? Which one? Yeah, has to do with the munafiqeen. Because what were they doing? They were scheming, they were planning against the Prophet ﷺ. At the end of the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells the Prophet ﷺ, He's like, don't worry about it. Like, you do your thing. And He ﷺ, how did he acted as if they didn't existed. Like,
didn't he treat the leader as like one of his own?
Yeah, like, some of them He kept close, some of them He spent time with, some of them He would visit, some of them He wouldn't. Like, when they gave zakat, He wasn't like, oh, I don't take your zakat. When they offered, they said, okay, hey, listen, we want to participate in this battle, or we want to go fight, we're willing to go to war with you. He didn't say, no, you can't join me. Why? Because He didn't care. Remember, zero mental energy, zero space? You guys ever heard the saying, like, you know, sometimes we give other people free rent in our heads?
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't do that. Yes?
Okay, so you mentioned jealousy. What about hasad? Like, what about envy?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't there a hadith that says, like, if someone envies you, they could kind of take that
Sure.
away from you?
Listen, the Prophet ﷺ, al-ayn al-haq. He said the ayn, the evil eye, is true.
Yeah.
Are jinn true?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are shayateen true?
Yes. But do they take your blessing away from you when
No.
people do envy?
People can't, listen, no one can take anything from you. It's only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that allows things to happen. Because at the end of the day, and even with all of that, all of the things that I have and all of the things that I own, are they really mine?
No.
Right? This is borrowed from Allah. Right? Allah is allowing me to use this. And if it gets taken away, okay, I'll get upset about it. But at the end of the day, this essentially is not mine. So I think it's important to have a mindset behind certain things and understand certain things. But at the end of the day, if somebody has the ayn toward me, or somebody has hasad toward me, how much mental energy should I give to that? And how many people am I going to single out that this person does and this person doesn't? Just imagine the mental energy that requires. Like, think about it. If I sat down, I'm like, oh man, who's scheming against me? Oh, who has hasad against me? Will I get anything done in my life?
No.
You know why? Because I'm so busy worried about other people. Who should I be worrying about? It's amazing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does He say? He says, قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارًا. He said, save yourselves and your family from the hellfire. Worry about yourself. Don't worry about other people. I'm saying, when I stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, maybe other people wronged me, but at that moment I have the right to what? I want, like, ya Allah, I want my right back. Like, somebody did magic on me, and I'm sure somebody did magic on me. I want my right back. And you know what Allah will do? Allah will be like, it was this person. And you were talking about taking hasanat. Who gets the hasanat here? You do. So whatever anybody tries in this world, people are going to make all kinds of efforts. People might try to physically try to hurt you. They might spiritually try to hurt you. They might emotionally try to hurt you. They might mentally try to hurt you. We live in a society where, like, it's very dynamic. There are people who want the best for us, and there are people who don't want the best for us. I have to operate within my capacity, and if somebody apparently looks like he's going to help me, what should I do? Accept it, right? Accept the help and keep going. Because the thing I can't do? I can't go through life doubting every single person around me. And if I'm doubting every single person around me, that's more telling of me and my heart than it is of the people around me.
Is there a goal to forgive everyone, basically, no matter what they do?
I won't say that's the goal, I would say that's the ideal. But at the end of the day, forgiveness is something that you own. You can decide on who you want to forgive and who you don't. Even the Prophet ﷺ, When Wahshi came to him, he accepted his Islam. What did the Prophet ﷺ, what is the first thing he asked him? He said, tell me how you killed my uncle. And Wahshi was like, he said, I was having problems actually putting my spear and figuring out how to hit him because he was moving back and forth so much. He said, and then there was a moment he stopped, and he said, that's when I threw the spear, and I hit him in the abdomen, and I saw him fall. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, Ya Wahshi, he's like, I can't stand to look at you. This is the Prophet of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he's telling him, he didn't say like, I don't forgive you or anything like that. He's just like, when it pains me, when I look at you, all I see is my uncle. When I look at you, all I feel is pain. Like, please don't come around me. If he can be like that, like that permission is there. And like we have to understand, like forgiveness is true ownership. Like we do own it, but I have to make a decision, right? I have to make a decision. Okay, I forgive this person, or I will hold this person accountable in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you know what that means? That khalas, I've let it go. In both situations, there's release. One is releasing the right, and one is giving it to Allah. Saying, Ya Allah, I trust you to take care of this. I'm going to go live my life and I'm not going to worry about this anymore. Because if I just hold it in my heart, you know what it does? It just becomes black, right? And all it does is just swirl around. It increases my anger, right? It just creates a lot of negative energy. So either I have to give it up or I have to give it to Allah. This is the only solution that I have. But at the end of the day, that's my choice. And one is forgiving and one is not. It doesn't mean I can't change the way I deal with someone. If somebody borrows money from me and I'm like, it's okay, dude, whatever, it's fine, it's just money, it's not a big deal. And they come back to me like a month later, like, hey, listen, can I get $500? I'll be like, no, I'm sorry. I'm not mad at you, but I'm not going to give you the money either. Yes?
Isn't it generally just best, like if you have a new car and all the blessings, you just say alhamdulillah and not tell people about it?
So it's up to you, right? I think there are different ways that we show our blessings. One of those ways is the way that we carry ourselves and the way we dress. If I have the wealth and I have the money, should I dress as if I'm poor? No, I should actually dress nicely, right? I should dress according to how, whatever my status is. And the reason for that is because this is reflective of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed me with. I can't, if I'm wearing clothes that have like holes in them and that it doesn't look nice, it's not presentable, I'm not matching colors, like this is one of my hugest pet peeves. Like, come on, like you can't match. Like really? What does that have to do with poverty? Unless you only have like 2 items of clothing. But, it's trendy? MashaAllah. But at the end of the day, it's like, how we present ourselves has to be reflective of the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's one way of me showing my thanks. Now, if I'm sharing the blessings that I have out of motivation, and what is one place that happens? One place it happens is like when we do fundraisers, right? When it's like, hey, we need 50,000, and someone's like, they raise their hand. I just learned that this person is wealthy, right? That this person has $50,000 worth of disposable income that he has no problem giving up to the masjid, and may Allah bless him and increase him. But that's a way of showing it. Is he doing it because he's boasting, or is he doing it to encourage others? I think this is something that's really important. And something we had discussed it in the previous classes. Like in this situation, as long as his intention is to encourage others, yeah, that's amazing, that's great. But at the end of the day, I'm not in a position as a third party to what? To figure out what his intention is.
And even if he is boasting, right?
No, even if he's boasting, who cares? The masjid is still benefiting. The program is still benefiting. Refugees are still benefiting. Orphans are still benefiting. Like, you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, the money's getting where it needs to go. Now, whether he gets a reward or not, that's between him and his Lord. Yes? Yeah. I think the best way is to seek spiritual protection. And how do you do that? With your adhkar, making sure that I'm praying on time, reading the Quran, like being around other people who are pious, being in places that are blessed, like, being in like the masjid, trying to stay in those positive places and positive environments to remove that negative effect. And also the mindset. Okay, alhamdulillah, I'm doing these things because I'll have young men, young women come to me and they'll be like, oh, I have magic done on me, or I had ayn done on me, or they're like, there's a jinn and this and that, blah, blah, blah. So I said, okay, are you praying on time? And a lot of times they'll be like, yeah, alhamdulillah, I'm praying on time. I was like, are you reading Quran? Yes, I'm reading Quran. Are you doing dhikr? Yes, I'm doing dhikr. I said, so you tell me, somebody who prays on time, somebody who's reading Quran, somebody who's doing dhikr, somebody who's calling an imam for help, how effective has that hasad been? How effective has the ayn been? How effective has that black magic been? That it sounds to me like you're becoming more religious. Like, what kind of reverse magic is this? But the problem is that we when we feel something, it becomes hard to look at our progress. And that's why it's important, to reach out to someone, be like, okay, hey, listen, I need to talk to somebody. Maybe they can help give me perspective on the things that I did or the things that have happened to me. And that's great. I think that's wonderful, but it's just a matter of like, okay, you did all these great things. Like, you should be very proud of yourself. This is excellent work. And if you believe that it's ayn or hasad, blah, 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 I was like, this type of ayn and hasad is like, it's bringing you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You tell me, how effective is it? Is it really working?
Do you think a lot of that's just cultural?
A lot of it's cultural. I mean, listen, for me, the way that most Muslims deal with like ayn and hasad and jinn and magic, it's very superstitious. Like for me, it's a very superstitious dealing of it. The first thing that people will call me and they'll be like, Sheikh, I need a raqi. Like, this is the first thing. I'll be like, what do you need ruqya for? Oh, somebody did magic on me, or this happened. Yeah, no, exactly. And it's like, okay, tayyib, why do you feel that? Oh, because this, and this happened, or this happened, and that happened. I was like, okay, well, can I ask you a couple questions? Sure. Did you seek any advice before you made that decision? Well, no, I didn't really talk to anyone. Did you make istikhara, before you made the decision? No, I didn't really make istikhara. I was like, okay, so you made a series of dumb decisions and you think that it's ayn and hasad and these things. I was like, listen, it's okay. We all make dumb decisions. Now's your opportunity to fix your decision-making process. And once the decision-making process is fixed, then we can explore and see like, okay, is this actually supernatural or is it not? But the problem I have, like, again, with many of our Muslim communities, the first thing is like, oh, I got into a car crash. Oh man, somebody did hasad on me. Or like, I didn't get the job. Oh, somebody did ayn on me. Or this happened. Or this. It's like, no, and that's part of it is like, unfortunately, we come from cultures where we want to remove responsibility from ourselves. And we'll remove responsibility supernaturally by saying it's ayn, by hasad, by jinn, by magic. And then culturally remove responsibility by saying, oh, look at the corruption in our country. It's like, okay, so you're telling me physically you're taking advantage of others and you're throwing garbage outside your window because the president is corrupt? You're telling me that, oh, you hurt this person, or you didn't study for the exam and you failed, but it's not your fault, it's because of the jinn? Like, something feels a little bit off here. Is if you take all the means, and I say this in the sense that, okay, hey, you know what? I talk to others, I do market research, I talk to other businessmen, and I want to open up a business. Before I open the business, I make salat istikhara. I go and I and I open the business, and the business fails. Was it a bad decision?
No.
Absolutely not. Why? Because I took all the steps that I needed to. Another example. Before I get in my car, I make sure that I check all the gauges, none of the gauges are lit up, there's air in the tires, I put my seatbelt on, I head out on the destination, and I get into a car crash. Was it a bad decision to go wherever it is I wanted to go? No. There are some things that happen because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's qadr, and it's important for us to understand that and know that. But just because something bad happens, it doesn't necessarily mean that that was for a negative reason. Sometimes those reasons are there to protect us. Maybe if I had opened up that business, I would have made wealth and it would have corrupted me. Maybe if I open up that business, somebody would have gotten sick. You know what I mean? Like there's so many opportunities. Alhamdulillah, I wasn't able to make it there because had I made it there, I would have eaten something I shouldn't have ate. Right? There's so many possibilities.
Do you think a lot of that just people are choosing TCD because
It's easier.
on the fear?
Yeah. It's easier to give in to fear than it is to stay in a state of hope. Right? It's very easy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that He made us zaluman jahula. Right? That I've made mankind, and we lean toward being oppressive and ignorant. Right? Why? Because it's easier. Right? It's easier to be ignorant than it is to be educated. It's easier to feel oppressed than it is to actually take ownership. It's easier to step on someone else to get to where I'm going than to build myself up. Right? It's much easier to do those things. Right? Because it's easier to take those shortcuts.
Do you find ignorance and arrogance to be the same?
No, they're two different. The thing about ignorance is like it's easily cured, but it requires humility. Right? If I'm ignorant and I recognize it, what do? I ask. Right? I was like, hey, listen, I don't know this. What do I do? That type of ignorance is praiseworthy. The type of ignorance that is a problem. When I don't know and I start acting like I know. That's a problem. And even if you go through like the fiqh books, they talk about the different types of jahl, the different types of ignorance. They said jahl basit and jahl murakkab. They said there's simple ignorance and compound ignorance. They said simple ignorance is cured with knowledge. Compound ignorance, it can't be cured because it stems from arrogance. Yes?
What do you do if you live with people who envy and jealous?
Mm-hmm. Sure. You create boundaries. That's always the best thing. If I know that the people around me are envious, or I know the people around me that are jealous, it's probably not a good idea for me to overshare. Right? Because look at envy and jealousy as a fire, right? And it's like this fire, it just consumes. And the more I throw into the fire, what happens to the fire? It gets bigger. And if I don't put anything in the fire shrinks. It's not going to go anywhere, right? Because it fuels itself, but it's going to stay small. So what do? I try not to share a lot with those people. And sometimes being honest in those situations can be difficult too. If I know that someone is like, for example, I'm like, hey, listen, I'm applying for this job, and the person who I live with, I know is jealous of me, and they called that person. And they're like, yeah, this was a really bad person, just to sabotage me. I'd be like, oh, I don't feel like you're sharing anymore. It's like, yeah, because the last time I shared with you, this and this XYZ happened. Like, why would I share with you again? I've lost, I'm sorry, I don't trust you. Those are hard, right? They're not easy conversations, but that's the only way to draw boundaries with people. If I want to build meaningful relationships with others, there are two elements that are really important and are required: honesty and transparency. Right? That's the only way to build relationships. And even if the honesty doesn't always feel good, difficult conversations happen with honesty. Difficult conversations happen with transparency. Right? And it's not good enough just to be one or the other. I need both. And even when we look to the Prophet ﷺ, the two characteristics that come back time and again are sadiq and ameen, right? Like we hear these everywhere. It's like, kana sadiq wa ameen, that he was honest and trustworthy. How are you honest and trustworthy? By being truthful and by being transparent. I have to be kind. I don't have to be nice. Example, yeah, ukhti, you have something in your teeth. I was being kind. Being nice is not telling you because I didn't want to hurt you. Kindness it actually builds people. Niceness doesn't. And why I'm being nice? Because I don't want to deal with your pain. It's actually a type of arrogance. That the reason that I don't want to tell you, like another form of this is pity. Pity, well, why aren't you telling her? Why aren't you firing her? Why aren't you doing this? I don't want to do those things because my feelings are more important than the situation. No, that's exactly what arrogance is the moment I put my feelings first and I put my feelings forward. Our decisions should never be based off feelings. Feelings are a guide, but we should never act on our feelings. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm saying that he stood in front of me. He's like, do you guys know me to be a liar? They say, no, we don't know you to tell anything except the truth. And he said, if I told you there was an army behind this mountain, and this is a people who have spies, this is a people who have lookouts, these are people who have other people who are on patrol. The fact that an army could just sneak up on Mecca, what are the chances of that? Like little to none. And he's like, if I told you there was an army here today, would you believe me? They said, we don't know you to be a liar. Like we would trust you. These are the type of relationships that are important to build, but they can only happen with honesty. And the problem with niceness is that it's the willingness to be dishonest by not being open and not being transparent. Yes. Mm-hmm. We have to. We have to. If I don't put my trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, I need to trust Him regardless of all the noise, right? Like, in our lives, how much noise do we have in our lives? Like, we have a lot of noise, right? This person's saying this, and that person's saying that, and we're hearing this, and this is happening. What do I have to do? I have to keep moving forward. And the only way to do that is to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes?
So what if you are honest and transparent, in a kind way,
Yeah.
but they have a very delicate ego and the kind of person where you normally have to like walk around eggshells around them. So when you do say it, it hurts them.
Mm-hmm.
It breaks their heart, hurts them, all that, and then they say like, oh, you just hurt my heart, you just, hurt me. You're not supposed to do that according to Islam, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Like, what do you do in that?
You can say, I apologize for hurting you. That wasn't my intention, but I still stand by what I said.
Like, Islamically, is it wrong?
To hurt someone? No. In Islam, it's forbidden to be malicious. Okay?
Yeah.
It's forbidden for me to intentionally want to hurt the person in front of me. But if I unintentionally hurt you, is there accountability? We come from different cultures. We come from different backgrounds. I express things in a certain way. I say things in a certain way. In certain cultures, that would be taken in a negative fashion or a negative way.
How do you feel on that?
Yeah.
Your intention.
Yeah, exactly. For example, I was raised in the 90s, and if I don't like something, I'll say that's retarded. And a lot of people will take offense to that, right? Am I saying it because I intend on offending people? Absolutely. I mean, no, right? That's not right. No, the intention is not to be malicious. I'm saying it because I'm expressing my thoughts or my idea about something. And my thoughts and idea about that thing is negative, and that's why I use that term. My intention wasn't to hurt you. But if you take offense to that, that's you. Now, what can you do with me and be like, hey, listen, when you use that term, I take offense and I don't like that.
What if people were to blame you, saying, oh, what you're doing is wrong, you shouldn't have said those things, you have to be careful what you say, you can't just say whatever you want.
I'll say, absolutely, I agree with you 100%. How would you like me to express that? If I dislike something, what is a better way for me to express that? Because now we're negotiating, right? And there's always going to be room for negotiation. You don't have to agree with my expression, but not just that, even in negotiating, do I have to agree with yours? But I have to be willing to negotiate. Be like, okay, hey, listen, I'll avoid using that term and I'll use something else, for example. But at the end of the day, you have no right because I cannot assume either that everybody's malicious. Like, does it make sense that I live my life and I'm like, oh, everybody's out to hurt me. I'll be like, hey, listen, can I tell you a secret? You're not that important. Like, Says me. Yeah, I stand by that. It's like, listen, at the end of the day, we all know that the world doesn't revolve around me. And if I believe that,
Okay, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
One more question. What if that person is an elder and is a caregiver?
sure, that happens. But at the end of the day, I have to decide on like what battles am I willing to fight, and how hard do I want to draw those boundaries, and understanding some of the consequences of drawing those boundaries. It's not always easy. Someone might be like, okay, well, what if that person's your mother? What if that person's really toxic? What if that person's abusive? Then I have to then recalibrate and figure out, how thick do I want my skin to be? Because someone might be like, oh, well, you should put up with it. Okay, how much should I put up with? What if my mother's insulting to me in front of my children? Should I put up with that? What if my mother's insulting to me in public? Should I put up with that? What if my mother opens a radio station and all she does, she talks about me negatively? Should I put up with that? No, I'm you know what I mean? Like, I know, like, I'm being slightly facetious.
Islamically,
Yeah.
are you supposed to put up with that?
I'm asking you.
Because that's your mom.
So my question is, I have that choice, But my question to you is like, okay, yeah, she opened the radio station and all she does is talk about, she sets aside 8 hours to talk negatively about me. Should I put up with that?
No, you're allowed to push back.
That's what I'm saying. Well, some people might not put up with the public point. Some people might not put up in front of the children. They'd be like, listen, if you talk about me like that in front of my children, Mom, like I'm not going to come around. Or I'm not going to bring the kids. Like, I'm sorry, I won't tolerate that. I love you. I respect you. But this I can't tolerate. You might get pushback. Be like, oh, well, you don't visit me and don't come back. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to see your face anymore. I don't want to see this. I just had a case recently where his mom is insistent on visiting for 5 months. And his wife was like, listen, I can only deal with her for 3. Right? This was it. And he was like, what do I do? I was like, listen, your wife can tolerate 3. See if you can extend that in a way and what contributions you can make so that your wife feels more comfortable. I said, but at the end, like, she can't stay the whole time. Like, I'm already telling you that. It's not going to work. He's like, yeah, but if I tell her, she's going to be like, okay, fine, I'm not coming, and blah, blah, blah. I said, that is her choice. Right? The moment that she says, I'm not ever coming back, you respond to her and be like, I'm not saying that, Mom. I'm saying that, listen, based on how you're, like, you know, based on how you act and like how upset you get when you extend your stay, I don't think it's a good idea. I don't. I have no problem that I said, listen, stay for 3 months. We're going to come visit you and this is that. I said, at that point, she can make whatever decision she wants. And if she doesn't want to come back, you are no longer accountable. Why? Because you didn't make that decision and your house is still open to her and you still are inviting her to come. Right? So it's a matter of being strategic and understanding, like, okay, how do I balance this relationship? How do I make it meaningful? And sometimes I don't always have the answer. So what do? I ask for advice. And be like, hey, listen, you know, this is the situation I'm in. I don't really know what to do. Okay, you know, talk to people who you trust. Be like, okay, and if it's a good friend and they can't help you, they'll be like, hey, listen, I can't help, but I think this person would be good. So when we talk about arrogance, there are usually 2 parties, right? It's difficult to show arrogance in a vacuum, right? So if I'm sitting alone in a room by myself, is there a meaningful way to express arrogance? No, right? Like, I need another party, right? There has to be somebody else that's there, which is why he breaks it down. He said there's the arrogant person and the one being looked down upon. And it's amazing actually how he frames this, right? He talks about not the one who receives arrogance, but he says that the one who's actually looked down upon, because that's what arrogance actually is. Yes?
Is a person, like, do you need the other person to see if they're being looked down upon? I mean, like, I can be arrogant on my phone.
Yes.
Looking, right?
Yeah.
Looking at other people. So.
Sure, it doesn't require physical presence,
Right.
but it
requires
an interaction though.
How?
Yeah. How else am I going to know? If I never interacted with Khalid, ever in my life, how is he going to show arrogance toward me?
If Khalid sees your profile.
Yeah.
And he has some thoughts about that.
That's fine.
Is that, like, I mean.
No, I understand. It doesn't mean that he's not arrogant. You understand what I'm saying? Because where is arrogance? It manifests, right? Arrogance is in the heart, but it manifests in our actions. I might not be a direct recipient of it, right? I might not feel the effects of it because I never interacted with him. Yeah. But I just went online and I saw somebody's profile and I was like, oh, what a piece of dirt. Sure. Right? It happens. But do you think that that'll be the sole manifestation of my arrogance?
Not necessarily.
No. Usually not. Why? Because arrogance stems from here, and it's not person specific. When a person suffers from arrogance, it will manifest in different places in their life. Mm-hmm. Usually where it can't manifest is with a superior. Mm-hmm. Why? Because it's hard, and that person will actually suppress that arrogance because they're unable to express it because they want to hold on to their job. But if a person is in a subordinate position, or if a person, maybe even a peer, right, it's very easy to manifest this. And it can be how we speak to people, right? Usually the easiest and quickest way to determine how somebody feels about me is the way that they address me, or the way that they deal with me, the way that they interact with me. Can some people hide it? Yeah, I think some people are good at hiding it, but it doesn't mean that they're not. But essentially, like I said, essentially, this is the formula that's required. And he breaks down, so what you're talking about here is a person by himself, he can have what Imam Ghazali calls ujub, which is just self-admiration, where a person is just so in love with themselves. And where can that happen?
That's the difference.
Yeah. Right? Where can that happen? That can happen in a vacuum, right? I can be sitting alone by myself and I can just, you know what I mean?
In the mirror.
In the mirror, right? You're just sitting there looking in the mirror like, you know what I mean? Like, it's very easy to fall into that. And that doesn't require anyone. But he says arrogance actually requires someone to receive it. He defines it here. A person could theoretically be self-admiring even if alone in creation, but arrogance cannot be conceived except in relation to others when one sees oneself as superior in perfect qualities.
Stems from arrogance.
It's a type of, yeah.
And it is not something that like is encouraged. Like where is it on the scale of?
I think all of these things stem from like negative characteristics of the heart. I think arrogance and ujub are definitely related. I can't imagine a person who's obsessed with themselves who doesn't look down on others, right? The only thing is like, okay, where does what manifest? I would say in a vacuum, which one is going to manifest? Ujub, right? By myself, in a vacuum, right? Ujub can manifest like, oh, I'm so amazing, I'm the boss, I like, look at me, I'm so cool, right? All of those things can happen. But the moment that I'm put in the presence of others.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, on the scale of I'm impacting myself here, if I'm self-impacting versus
like which one's worse?
Manifesting it against somebody else. So like that's I'm guessing worse than.
It's definitely worse, but both of these are extremely problematic because the Prophet ﷺ, he said that the one who has arrogance, right, whether it be in the form of ujub or whether it be in the form of actual arrogance toward others, that this person will be prevented from paradise.
So this is a disease of the heart.
It's a disease of, yeah, absolutely. It's a disease of the heart, how they manifest. And not just that, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, one who has just, like a grain seed or a mustard seed of arrogance in their heart. Like, okay, well, what if someone has like a pear-sized amount? Okay, well, what if someone has like a watermelon-sized amount? I'm sorry?
How do you cleanse it?
You cleanse it with humility.
No, but
Yeah.
I get that concept, but like,
Sure.
what actions do you start with to get
Sure. So we had discussed it, I think, 2 classes ago. What is the first step in getting away from arrogance?
Putting yourself like in people, noticing people that are like intellectual, something like that.
Okay, so my keeping good companions, right? Keeping good company, 100%. But even before that, what is the first step that Ghazali spoke about? We had mentioned it a couple classes ago. Okay, lowering yourself. Okay, hey, there's something even easier. Even before that, easier, even easier, even easier than that. He said, stop all physical manifestations of arrogance. Physically withhold yourself from manifesting arrogance, right? And what were those ways? He said, stop walking arrogantly. He's like, okay, hey, listen, control yourself. Because once you get physical control, what happens? It becomes a lot easier to scale inward. But if I'm able to control my physical, right? If I'm arrogant, if I think someone is lower than me, it's very easy for me to control my tone. If someone is lower than me, it's very easy for me to control my words, right? Like it's like, okay, let me get more picky with my words. Let me make this more neutral. Okay, let me drop my shoulders a little bit when I'm walking, right? Like it becomes, the more awareness I have of how things are physically manifesting, there's a domino effect where it starts reaching the heart. Now, all of these other things, dhikr, making my salah, being around good people, having advice, reflecting, right, doing muhasabah. These are all of these like spiritual techniques and method are amazing, right? They're really good. But he's saying like the easiest thing to do is having that physical awareness. That's step 1. Right? The moment I have that physical awareness, it becomes a lot easier for me to now start scaling. Because if I stop, I would say, expressing arrogance, what happens? How people deal with me is going to be very different. Who likes dealing with an arrogant person? Like no one. And how do we know? We almost recognize, like it's amazing as a human skill how quickly we recognize it. That we walk away and it's like, man, what an arrogant jerk, right? Like immediately, like we almost see it immediately. And why do we know that? It's because of the way that they're talking to us, the words that they're using, the way they're expressing certain things, how they're carrying themselves, how they're holding themselves. And all I have to do is change some of those things and tweak some of those things. And even if he or she has arrogance in their heart, what happens to me? I won't be able to gauge, right? I won't be able to tell. I might have a feeling, but there's no 100% guarantee like, no, this person is actually arrogant or this person is being a jerk. It's very, very similar. They're just different types, right? So self-admiration can be due to accomplishments. It can be due to certain characteristics, like, oh man, look how generous I am, or look how intelligent I am, right? Vanity can be, vanity's more like superficial, versus ujub, which can be a combination of the two, right? It could be an self-admiration of characteristics, and it can be a physical self-admiration.
We still haven't had vanity.
No, we haven't. We're going to get there. We'll get there. But like I said, it's not far from ujub. It's not far from self-admiration. Pride can have positive manifestations. Being proud of my accomplishments, being proud of my family, being proud of certain things that I've completed. Why are those? Why is that different? If I'm proud that I wrote a book, for example, how come that's okay?
Because I thought the hadith is if you have an atom's worth of pride.
Okay, sure, but what kind? Because the Prophet ﷺ, he defined pride, kibbutz, very clearly. He said it's when you reject the truth. So if I'm proud of my family, I'm proud of my accomplishment, I wrote a book, I bought a house, I got a job, I'm proud of these things. Is that okay or not?
Yeah.
Why is it okay?
Because it doesn't interfere with your religious spirituality.
Okay, it doesn't affect my spirituality, why?
Because you're not saying that you're preferring one thing over the revelation, right? You're not
Okay,
revelation.
what else?
A great example of being proud of your family, right? If one of your kids, right,
Mhm.
does something and you celebrate them, it makes them feel more
Okay.
encouraged to do good.
Sure, so it's a way to motivate. Not just that, if I'm proud of my child, does that automatically mean that I think my child is better than all children? No. Right, that's the difference between pride and arrogance. Arrogance is when there's a feeling of superiority. Pride doesn't bring that superiority. It just brings happiness for an accomplishment. We'll spend more time on this, inshallah, next class. Next week, there is no class. We do have an iftar for Yom Arafah, inshallah. We encourage everyone to attend. But I want you guys to kind of go home. I want you to think about this. So he's saying that in order for arrogance for it to be true arrogance, it requires these three ingredients. And we'll spend time, inshallah, talking about this next week. Not next week, but next class, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Jazakum al-khair. Wallahu a'lam wa sallallahu ala khayri khalqin. Nabina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. Any quick questions before salah? No? Jazakum al-khair. Huh?